to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yance, and this is the full interview with Kim Houston. Enjoy. Okay, I have a guest with me today. I have Kim Houston. She is formerly a casting director. Well, you're still casting, right?
I'm going into the formerly a little bit, but
She's
yes,
kind of going into the
I do cast for
formerly.
people that I know. But yeah,
Cool.
we could talk about that and why. But
And she has a studio called Kim Houston Acting Studios in Hollywood, Florida. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great. We have studios also in Atlanta as
Saw that
well.
as well.
So yeah, we're kind of branching into where everybody's working, but I'm doing great, thanks.
I didn't know you actually had, I saw that you guys were doing some classes in Atlanta. I didn't know you guys actually had now a
Yeah,
place in
well,
Atlanta.
so we a lot of the business has changed to, self-taping studios. So we kind of have a little spot for actors to be able to put themselves on tape for projects. Not only, things that I would be working on, but anything they need really.
I
It's
find that's how I like to tape is you're not going into a room anymore with a casting director. So it's like, if I self-tape myself, I feel like I'm only going to see it through the prism of me. But if I can go, see somebody else and have them kind of give me ideas the same way kind of a casting director would,
exactly.
it gives you
No,
that same feel of being in the room.
yeah, there's so much now technically that goes into the auditions also. It's kind of nice, I think, as an actor to just focus on your audition and on the choices
Agreed.
that you want to make instead of like, how do I label it? Where do I put my slate? And what's the compression?
Yeah.
And I mean, those are things that will get you eliminated though. So why not have
Yeah.
somebody just help? So we try to make it really
Yeah.
affordable. I'd like to even make it more affordable because it doesn't look like it's going back to in person as much. I kind of thought
No,
it was
no.
more of a shorter time until COVID was over and things might go back to in person, but very few people seem to like it.
I,
I
I
guess the
feel they
client, it's so much easier for them.
I feel they see the self-tape is now cost-cutting measure because now all you need to do is maybe a screen test if you want to do something else. But now, it's the
You mean
first
as
run,
far
we can
as
just
the
go through
clients and what their budget
as
is?
as for well, yeah, as I mean, it just seems like everything is kind of gone self-tape now for the first run of auditions. If
Right.
callbacks come in, we would, you know, then we might need you in, but I don't know. This is the future.
It's changed a lot. Absolutely. I've been lucky enough to work in it for about 30 years and see a lot of technical changes for sure, from where we started on beta and half-inch tapes and actually recording voiceover on like 8 track, in such a bad
Wow.
and just no booth even, and things seem to
Yeah.
work. But yeah, and then changing over to those 3/4. I mean, back in the day, it was just in some ways it was so much nicer because there was time. And that's what's missing now, I feel, is everybody wants
Mm.
everything so quick and everyone's available and everyone's online. And but there's no time to think about who you would really like to put on this project. You kind of in casting, you're just, reaching out and you have this team and they're giving you people and you're working with agents and managers, but there's to me all of a sudden you're getting people presented to you without really you getting to take the time. In the old days we had this
Mm-mm.
big book, who and the resumes,
Yeah.
and we'd flip through and read their resume, what they do lately, and and talk about them and plan. And that
Yeah.
was kind of cool because I think the jobs were funner for
Yeah.
me, for sure, being part of a team like that and the collaboration and you know really knowing the actors a lot more, where you don't as much now. You're just kind of checking out links on stuff that they've done and who knows. So I do miss all that because that was really great to just take the time to think about people and plan and know exactly who was coming in and who wasn't and who was available. And Now it's just so the reason I say formerly casting is really COVID changed so many things for me, and having to be dedicated to my screen, no matter if it was a phone, an iPad, a computer. I had like no life at all. I would have to, thank God I had a dog, is all I can say, because the dog is what got me to get up, go walk, go make sure, because it was just overwhelming, and I'd get headaches from watching so much. And
Mhm.
I'd know in 7 seconds when I want to watch somebody or not. And that didn't really seem fair, but it was the process and categorizing. And then you're basically then just sorting people on Excel sheets and making notes. And I was going crazy, ripping my hair out with, this isn't really what I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
Typically you do a casting, you see people in person, and you kind of know who's being uploaded. So hardly would I have to watch it again, or I might watch it again just to put my selections in, but to have to rewatch people because you forget, and then dealing with COVID and remembering who had it, who didn't, who needed wardrobe, and
Mhm.
it was like, no, thanks. No,
So,
thanks.
so it
And
kind of,
so
so it kind of delved into, just looking at screens all day, and you were like,
all
I
day.
want to be with people.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would say 20 hours of my day. I got very little sleep because even when I was sleeping, I was seeing videos in my head and hearing
Mm.
voices because, sometimes I would just hear the audition in my earbuds to get to walk. And I
Mm.
could, so this really parlayed for me into wanting to work in voiceover so much more, because I
Mm.
realized that that's what did it for me. If I was, even folding laundry, doing dishes, and videos were playing, because you would get like sometimes 100 submissions for, a part,
Mm.
depending on whatever the project was, if it was for Showtime or Netflix or something really big. You see a lot of people where that was new too, the
Mm.
capacity of um, how many people can submit for a role. Anyway, I would be hearing a lot of more of the auditions and found what is making me stop folding laundry to, oh, who's that? Because I like what they did with their voice, made me feel like they have something for me to see. So that was
Mm.
a game changer for me, and started really then just focusing on ways to help people figure that out for themselves and understand it, so it makes a difference. And then I would see how it would relate on camera to when a director says action. Many times these actors were looking at the lines and just like, okay, go, because they had
Yeah.
something to say, and they weren't really doing any action before. So
Mm.
I kind of started really breaking everything down during that COVID nightmare and seeing, boy, if people just realize this or that, or I think they would succeed. And I've been able to do that in the last, it's been 2 years now, about really
Mm.
see people's career take off with that the little bit of the notes that I can give them. And I'm no coach, I'm not teaching them technique. I believe
Yeah.
these people already have some really good natural skills. And then I put them with coaches. And that's another thing
Mm.
too, is being able to meet someone and know who they really should be working with. And that's
Mm.
more of the collaborating that I enjoy doing, which I was doing in casting before, but it went into like
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Um,
order, yeah, in
so,
order for me
so
to feel like I had a life, I had to change gears that way. But I don't know if you
can we
even
go back?
asked me that. Sorry, I started
No, no,
talking.
no. I love what you just said. I just wanted to go back though to one thing you were talking about, time. And that seems to be, we continue to just speed up the casting process more and more and more. Can you talk a little bit about that transition from, because I've heard the stories back in the 70s and the 80s where it was a different time where they would
Oh,
like,
it was great. I
you
loved
would
being
have
in
time to
casting.
talk to them.
I love being casting. I was so lucky to get into it. I worked at a talent agency office that was just opening and didn't know anything. I saw an ad. It's in a local magazine they have in Florida, New Times. It's like a rag. Nobody really looks at it then. Now it's pretty well known. But there was an
Mm.
ad. I just happened to be. I was becoming a recording engineer in college working in audio studios, and it wasn't working out for me. There really were no girls in the studios then, and they would have preferred me in, you know, the waiting room and and supplying things for the artist instead of helping them in the recording room. They really would tell me what to wear, and it was a whole different world. But
Wow.
in order for me to stay in that business, I had to kind of conform or go on the road. And I did go on the road with some big bands, and that just, it wasn't for me. As much as I loved being around live music, I thought that's my passion. Um, there's just too much drama, too many musicians, and just too much. You would get distracted, and guys want to help you, and that's a predominantly guy field. So again, I had guys helping me where I needed to really learn things and do things on my own. And you know, being just an only girl with a bunch of guys on the road is not a good idea for anybody.
No.
So I saw this ad. Sorry, I got distracted again. So I saw this ad for just random. Like I remember really sitting down, like, what am I going to do now? And looking through this, and it said talent agency. And I know I just didn't have a lot of experience even in life yet. I was in my early 20s, but I thought it meant like you know, planning parties. For some reason, the talent to me meant clowns, entertainment, parties. I just didn't understand the true definition of talent, and that you know, it was referring to actors and the business. And so when I went into the office and saw headshots, and you know, they were working on shows that I watched, you know, Miami Vice. That's how long ago. And that was really cool. Like, this stuff goes on here. And then it was like, oh yeah, a lot of this stuff goes on there. And then into some of, I loved fashion at that time too. I also went to fashion college to be a merchandiser after the engineering, and
Wow.
couldn't find my way because I never sewed. I never took sewing classes, and that's really what you need to succeed in that world. And so not being a musician, not
Yeah.
having the ear for music, and not being someone that can alter and make clothes, you're kind of like in production then. I found like you're behind the scenes, you're not in that foreground. So I kind of like that. I liked being able to push people forward. And in this talent agency, however, things were very busy very fast in the, you know, mid to late 80s. We had just so much work, so much print work and commercial work, and feature films were coming. And there was so much going on at once that as soon as you got to your job and sat down, you're on the phone all day. You know, you had like no voice, and you're just dry mouth, and leave at 6 o'clock. And at that time, again, because of time, there were just beepers and things. So people, you know, really needed to talk to you, they'd beep you. But otherwise, you were kind of, you had a life, I think, where now my phone is nonstop with time zones and different clients in different countries and Zoom, and you're always on. But that was really nice because then you could also go and choose who you wanted to hang out with in the business too. It wasn't that they were always around. So that talent agency taught me a great deal about how actors do not look like their headshots. And you have no idea what an actor was doing when you sent them to an audition. Then you just waited to get any kind of feedback you could from a casting director. And they were so busy that you never got to talk to the casting director. You talked to a lot of assistants. So I started to make friends with those people, which was essential to me. And really knowing their voices. I'd never met them for I think I worked there about 2 years until I finally was like, I've got to figure out who these people are. And one of the busiest casting offices at that time was the casting directors. That's what it was called, from D. Miller. And I would get the most calls at the talent agency for them. And they had so much going on. She had 3 different, they were bays at the time, but I didn't know because I hadn't been. And again, constantly someone on commercials, constantly someone doing photography and print work, and then feature films or TV series. And sounded like a madhouse. And I needed to check it out. Like, what is going on over there? So I worked with this one actor all the time, because when I started at the agency, the owner gave me a list, like, here's your Caucasians, here's your African Americans, and different age groups, like my cheat sheet, because
Yeah.
she had to leave the country. She had elderly parents and had to go to Puerto Rico to be with them, and just left me. And that was the best way to learn, of course. But,
Mm.
I was running the show, having no experience. So I learned very quickly who was who, you know, what kind of time to spend with what casting director then, who were the people that I wanted to get. You were calling and beeping people, waiting for them to call you back. And at that time, everybody was multi-listed with the agents that were here, which were about 4, maybe, or 5.
Mm.
But it was all about who called you first. So I started to understand that, well, like, what order are we in, I wonder, at this
Mm.
agency, and how do we get? So I became friendly with these people too. And I would find when they called me first, we were getting callbacks and bookings, but based off that sheet. And I never got to meet the people on the sheet because they were busy going on auditions, and I was going based on their headshots.
Mm.
So I got an opportunity to go to this casting office one day to drop off pictures. And instead of, hiring a messenger like we did then, I was like, oh, I've got to bring it. I've got to shut this office down, and I'm going. So what a rude awakening, honestly, on just so much more of the business, and actually seeing a casting office, how they operated, nothing like I expected. Meeting the faces that I've been talking to on the phone for years, and
Yeah.
seeing the talents that I was sending and how wrong they were for the part. I thought, I mean, in Dee's office, she had these great monitors that you could see what was going on in all of her studios,
Yeah.
and she would just be in there smoking her cigarette, and mirrors around. It was very dark. And I sat in there across from her, so intimidated, listening
Yeah.
to her raspy voice, calling everybody honey, or, cursing too. Like, so,
Yeah.
and I got to just like listen to her, but she was busy. So I turned my attention to these monitors. And that's where I saw people that we were representing on that list. Not only nothing like what I thought they were,
Yeah.
appeared to be. I mean, even when I heard their name, I was like, what? And then they didn't, when they said their agency, they didn't say our agency. So I was kind of blown away that day. It was definitely a pivotal day for me.
Wait. So they didn't say.
They didn't even say the agency that we were that we, because I remember we caught them. I knew that we were
Yeah.
sending them on this casting. Now they lied. So here they were lying about their look, lying about their agency, and who knows what else. I felt totally
Wow.
just like, I can't trust these people.
Yeah.
And then whenever they did call the actors, they really wanted to talk. It felt like you were their therapist in a way.
Yeah.
And the reasons why they couldn't get to this job, or what, they wanted to talk about the job that you were putting them on. There was no time for that.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to go in that direction, I'm sure I could have been very successful as an agent, because I understood then what it takes, and
Yeah.
decided it's not for me. But I knew right away,
And you
oh,
understand, networking very well. I
yes,
can already see
absolutely.
that. You
Absolutely.
knew how to network. You were like, I need to know this people so we can send that to.
Yes. And then
But you
once
brought
I
up
got into
the
casting,
unknown.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The unknown of, you didn't know what they were doing when you sent them into
I
the
didn't know
room.
what they had to do also. To see someone on
Mm.
camera in an audition room, when you are, back in those days, again, we never saw self-tapes, we never saw auditions. The casting
Yeah.
directors never shared that, let alone hardly feedback. This is
Yeah.
how I got feedback. I remember one day being on the phone, because the one guy I'm talking about that blew it for me, that I was like, who is that? What? That's our leading guy? Like, he was so feminine, and his mannerisms on camera, and he was so little. And I thought, like, that's my dad. That's the guy on our list that we're, so it took me back to a flashback where I remember talking to this casting director and saying, or assistant, how'd so-and-so do? And I remember her going, oh, no, sorry, it wasn't that. I gave his name. She asked me for, at that time, they gave you time slots and you had to call it in. There wasn't even the fax.
Mm.
So that was great having the fax machine. But anyway, when they called it in and you gave them the name, I remember hearing a little sigh. And I was like, what was that? Like, she sighed when I said his name. Is that good, bad? That's my leading guy. So now I understood. As soon as I saw him on camera, like, oh, now I know what that sigh was about. No wonder he's just not
Like
that guy.
they keep sending him.
Yeah.
He
So I
doesn't
got
look
to
like what we
change,
want.
I got to change the list up, which was really cool. I went back to the
Mm,
agency and really put the people that I thought were right
yeah.
for those parts, not with, my colleague who, of course she had great experience. She ran one of the biggest talent agencies down here, Act One,
Mm,
with Peggy McKinley. That was really, they were groundbreaking women then. And anyway, just changed things around in the agency and was happy to leave the agency
mm.
and let her know why. And the agents that hired me was kind of excited that I was leaving because I think she thought, I'd call them first. They'd get the first dibs on the job. So she was excited about me moving to a place where I could benefit the agency some. And I did. The girl that ended up, who owns it now, uh, got to train her in some ways on what to do, what not to do from a casting perspective to
Mm.
a new person. Because I remember being that new person, but
Yeah.
she's very successful now, and everybody loves going to that agency, and I love working with them still. So anyway, a lot has changed in that time, but that's what got me into the casting directors, where it was just a life-changing experience for me. I knew that was what I wanted to do when I got to watch people working with people, and I saw how just by, so like I said, she had 3 different rooms going on, and I got to see not only the people on talent, but who was working with them. And there was one that was very chatty. One girl was the director and had this wonderful contagious laugh and made that actor so comfortable from her laugh and the way she relaxed them. Whereas in the other room, there was a man director, and he was making this person, just their script was, I'll never forget, just shaking on camera. It was obvious of what he was doing. He was really intimidating them and not making them feel good. And I got to see that difference, like, oh, okay, I know now how important it is to be in that room with someone. And then again, I had no experience really with directing or even running a camera, and they would just throw me in because they were so busy.
Mm.
And they had this one room in the casting directors that anybody who has worked there, which a lot of people have worked there, I think there were 14 people working there when I begged her to hire me for free. They had this one room that was like the shag rug room that nobody liked working in. It was red shag, horrible carpet. It was just gross. Like, you can imagine what you thought was going on in those rooms on
Yeah.
camera. I mean, they did cast for everything back then. But anyway, that's where I learned, in the red shag room. I had
The red
an
shag room.
audition for Volvo, and it was Adam and Eve discover the Volvo in the Garden of Eden. And these models had to be naked. They had to be willing to be completely naked on camera. This
Yeah.
was my first experience of a casting and putting people on camera.
Wow.
It was,
Wow.
yeah, unforgettable experience. Just, being with naked people, first of all, in a room and telling them what to do, and then trying to maneuver the camera in ways that I was unsure of what I was really doing.
Yeah, it's
And
like, do
yet,
you want it full? Yeah, it's like, do you
and
want
yet someone
this full
gives you
throttle?
direction
Like,
though. Someone
yeah.
tells you, like, this is what you do. You slate them, you get their names, you get their profiles, you get their bodies, you get them to turn around, and then you do the action with them, which is they, are walking together, they end up on the ground, and they're
Yeah.
loving. And I'm like, well, how loving? And some people didn't even know each other. You would assign them in the hallway. You're Adam, you're Eve, you're Adam, you're Eve, take your clothes off. And the hallway was lined with people.
Oh,
Lines. Back in the
wow.
day, there were so many, models that were constantly in South Florida for seasons and stuff. And there were lines. There were lines down I just remember looking out down the hallway, like, will this ever end? This
Yeah.
is a nightmare. but that was my first job.
But you were
Very glad.
interacting with people. And I
I
think that's,
was,
yeah.
and trying to make them not just feel comfortable in a room, trying to make them feel comfortable in a room naked. Like, should I take my clothes off? I don't know what to do. Like, I feel very awkward. Casting is awkward too. It's being uncomfortable, it's being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. That's what
Yeah.
Anthony Crone always taught me. And he would do these great classes here in our studio, basically on just that, on making people even more uncomfortable and getting them to
He's the one
settle.
that used to be, I don't know if he's still with your studio anymore. The
Anthony?
guy you're, is he?
He's not, he's right now not doing classes with us. He will always be in our hearts.
Yeah, because I watched some of the videos with him, and yeah, he was very,
The YouTube
I
ones I
could
put
so
on,
yeah, the
I
YouTube
love
ones, I
to
could
tape
so
his
see him.
classes. Yeah, it gets right up
I
in your
could so
face.
see him saying that. Yeah, he's very, very intimidating. But it's good that you have somebody in there. It's like that's
Well, yes
what
and no. The thing
actors might have to deal with.
what do you mean might? They will, if they're really going to
I'm
be
being polite.
successful. Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen Michael Bay in
Yes.
person? Or
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen him in person, but I've read
but
about him,
still,
and
even
I know what
read,
he's
look
like.
any of his documentaries, maniac.
Yeah.
That
Joel
intimidation
Silver,
and
he was another one.
just, yeah. So he's preparing you for real life. But in my situation is, and I'm grateful for everybody that comes to my studio. Most of them are beginners. I would love to have an advanced class, but the thing in South Florida, which is always hilarious to me, is people book a commercial and think they're in the biz, they're on their way, or even a role in a film, a small role. I had a boy that booked, something that he got him to at the Academy Awards, but then they
Yeah.
stop. They think
See,
that
isn't that the
yeah,
truth though? And I
they
see
think they
this with,
they
I
hit
get,
it.
yeah, I've argued with actors about this. I'm like, okay, yeah, you went to school and everything, but it's like acting is something you never stop learning from.
You should
So
never
you always
stop. You
got to
should,
just got to
yeah.
keep going.
Well, and the thing is about classes, any classes, I mean, I could see if they're at a different level and people, the beginners, sometimes it is hard
Yeah.
to sit through a class when someone is just brand new.
Yeah.
But that's when you determine too, okay, this isn't right for me. I want to do training with less people and at a higher level. And I like this coach, like, I
Yeah.
like for people to figure that out. Like, I like what this person has to offer. Private training doesn't have to be expensive if you're willing to share time with another actor too. I mean, you're going
Yeah.
to get more out of it. So I encourage those shared sessions all the time. We do them in voiceover because it makes it competitive then,
Yeah.
when someone else is in the booth and then you're going to get up in the booth. And the wonderful thing about the classes in my studio, in my opinion, is a lot of times we let the actors run the camera too and direct whoever's on camera, so that when that dynamic switches, it loosens you up. It gives people an
Yeah.
understanding that, okay, now I know what's needed because I just asked somebody for it and they either
Yeah.
gave it to me or not. So I know what to do. You can see it in people's eyes as soon as like they're behind the camera, they're like, look out. And I've seen it so many times. The best example I have is doing a casting. I think I was renting Lori's studio, I remember, and she had something going on in her studio that was for Mexico, like a taco thing. And I had some, I don't remember what we were doing in my studio. Oh, it was something with print because this guy, he's an actor. I like to always hire actors, whether they, are graphic designers on the side, or like I'm going later to my friend who works at a restaurant. I always want to go wherever the actors are to support anything they're doing. But this guy was a good photographer. So I was like, why don't you, work with me in casting? And then if of course, if I have any castings. So he was working with me all day in the studio, taking pictures and videotaping their slates, and kept hearing this taco music going on next door, and the guys that were coming in for it that looked just like him. And we kept hearing the music. So we were singing the song throughout the day, the little, jingle they had.
Yeah.
And so they were still casting, and I think they were on a break or something. And I said, why don't you go in there? And he was like, I should cast for that, right? I'm like, of course you should. Like, just go in there. Let's talk to Lori.
Yeah.
Of course he booked it. He booked it in a heartbeat, because as soon as he walked in the room, he didn't have that intimidation of being an actor. He had it as, I'm a client too. I'm working in the other room. I know what you need. I've been watching all day. Let me do it.
Yeah.
And I find that happens quite a bit. We used to have lunch delivered at Lori's office often. And I'm telling you, if we were casting a national commercial, which means you see the world, you see everybody in South Florida, our delivery guy would be the one they chose. I'm not kidding you.
No,
I'm
I
not kidding
believe
you.
you. I mean,
Because they just walk in
because
like,
they're the
hey,
one
what's
that's gonna
going on? They got this great energy. They're happy to be
Yeah.
there. They have a great look usually. And
And they're
they
gonna be a
make
human
the person
being.
feel, well, this is really important too. They make those clients feel like they got to go. They got something else to do. Where other actors sometimes don't make you feel that way. They can sometimes make you feel like they got nothing else to do.
This
It
is
is
all I
funny
have.
though.
Please,
Right.
hat in
There's a
hand.
desperation, and that makes clients uneasy. I've been in the
Yeah.
room for hundreds, I think thousands of callbacks. And that has been such an eye opener for me to see how clients interact with talent, how they don't like to. They really don't until they're ready to book. And even then, they want a liaison. And so in casting,
Yeah.
I was able to do that. And I loved it. I loved the go-between. You know, this is what they said. This is what they want. Don't do that. Walk over there. Don't talk to them.
It's
Don't look at them.
it's interesting. McConaughey talked about that. That was the first
Oh,
thing
yeah.
he learned when he got to Hollywood. Was the producer said, "No, no, no, you can't." Because he said to him, "I need an agent," and he's like, "No, you need to go to on vacation and come back and realize." Because if you come in there acting like you need something, they're gonna sense that in 2 seconds. You're gonna be done.
It's so they can
And I
sniff it out. There's actors that have
it's
lost jobs and they don't even know it, because they just like, hey, so where are you guys from? It's like, it's
Well,
you know, it's like
where? I
nothing.
don't know.
It's not even something that you know, you would think would have somebody lose a job over, but nah, we don't want to talk to you. That feeling. We're busy, we're
It's
working.
like this
You're
is
not in
all
our
this
club.
is all you have.
You're not in our club yet. I've had actors walk over and like eat their food, hey, so you
Yeah.
grab a sandwich. Oh, I love this place. Or because there's always food at callbacks. Like, that's the time
Yeah.
that everybody gets together, and you finally meet. You finally meet, because we weren't
Yeah.
filming before. We were just talking on the phone,
Yeah.
pre-pro. You finally get to the callback, which everybody loves. It's the best part of the
Yeah.
job, is let's decide on our cast and talk about people, and
Yeah.
and let's eat, and let's have coffee, and let's see wardrobe, and let's look at things. And it's like the casting office is usually like, how long are you going to be here? Because we're done. And they're there. They don't want to leave because they don't have production offices yet set up. So that's
Yeah.
what casting offices were like. But now, without all that, they have themselves all set up first, and they're zoom until they finally have to go to the location. So it's
Yeah.
changed quite a bit. Casting platforms have really cut out a lot of casting directors on some jobs and forced production
Yeah.
people to work more in casting, because there needs to be somebody organizing stuff.
Yeah.
Even if you're not hiring a studio, you really need somebody in casting, especially if the job is a union job, or,
Yeah.
there's things involved.
Otherwise, you're gonna get like 1,000 videos of,
You're going to get
and
a
it's just
lot of, yeah. Well, it all depends. It's always interesting, because I really enjoy working with students on their film projects, and
Mm,
watching how they've come along. And even I love looking at their call sheets, such detail.
yeah.
They're just great, and answering any questions at all. But you can tell that when they're really new, they're like, just send me everybody. It's like,
No.
no,
No. You don't
no,
want that. You don't
right.
want that.
Yeah. Well, there are times that, in casting, you have to put people on that are completely wrong to make a client decide much quicker. because
Yeah.
otherwise they're like, oh, this is going to get long. And then they're like, oh, let's go back.
Yeah.
Let's go back to
But
the
you're right. If
beginning.
you don't show them that person, they're gonna go, what about this person?
Right. They're always going to think, well, they were good, but they were good, but
Yeah.
like,
So it's
oh
like, all right,
God,
well,
that's
let's
a
watch
train wreck.
them.
Yeah. That's a train wreck. Are we getting more like that? Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's start deciding. Let's start penciling people in. So
Yeah.
that's great. When they start laying down headshots, they're on their way to, it's
Yeah.
like it's a funny process. And it's been great. I feel like I'm taking my bow like it's over, but I
Oh,
do
it's
like being on this side of the acting world and
yeah.
trying to guide people just in the right direction, because they can really get messed up and taken advantage of. And there
Yes.
is such a quick way, I think, of success in South Florida if you just know some things. If you know
Yeah.
exactly the right agent for, if you know your market, if you know things like that. So
Mhm.
that's kind of, those are the classes I like to teach. In no way
Yeah.
am I an acting coach and teach acting. All my classes that I do are from a casting perspective on auditioning,
Mm.
what to do, what not to do, etiquette a lot of times, um, resources. I mean, I could do a whole class on, on who are the right resources to have in your corner to move forward, what are the basics that you need, and what to
Yeah.
do on camera, and how to understand there are all the different ways to audition for the different genres that there are. So I like
Interesting.
that. I like seeing the success that people quickly get it or don't.
Yeah.
And and wow, they'll just call me like, I'm working, like I love it,
Yeah.
I'm doing it. So
Wow.
it works.
Interesting. I like that you're covering all the spectrum of
I
acting.
want
Like
to,
you,
because there's a lot that nobody teaches them. And the reason we
yeah.
do those on-set workshops, and I call it a workshop, is they are on the set completely different from auditioning. You sometimes you don't do anything like you did in the audition
Yeah.
when you're on the set. And
Most
who's
times
going to
you won't.
teach you really about blocking and stand-in and what does that mean when they when they
Or
use those
asking,
terms? Yeah,
yeah,
they use these
asking
terms.
for a mark. Like if they want you to
Exactly.
stand somewhere, it's
Right.
like,
Oh, they're
as an
right in your
actor,
face. We're gonna
ask,
mark it. We're gonna do coverage here, long there, open, wide, and they're just like,
yeah,
what?
ask for a mark, ask for what you need. A lot of novice actors just got to sit
Yes.
there and be like, just, oh, okay, I'll go there. It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, I
When
need a
do I,
mark.
what happens when things that will happen?
Yeah.
Like what, I forget my line. What do I do?
Yeah.
What not to do is mostly what we cover.
Yeah.
But and
Stay
then
in it. Don't
the,
call cut.
my favorite part is really just um, introducing all the different roles to people too on set. And if you have a love for the business, it might not be just, you can't be in it because you're not an actor. There's so
Yeah.
much more to do in production. And that's the fun part, is being part of a team, especially
Yeah.
if you could play both sides. I mean, I'm sure you know how many crew members have their SAG cards or
Yeah.
try to, because they want to be able to jump in there. They've been watching an actor, oh, Mr. Mark, Mr. Mark, Mr. Mark over and over.
Yeah.
How about me? So you never know on the different types of productions and what's needed, but that's my favorite part, is teaching production. I would love
Yeah.
that. I would love to really just take it to another level. So on any of your podcasts, should you know of anyone looking to share space,
Okay.
we're always looking for a warehouse or a big space that we can work in and do more. I want to have
Yeah.
celebrity guests. I want to have a podcast. Maybe you can help me with that.
Yeah.
Do you really
I would
want to
love,
have?
I would love to help you with that.
Yeah, I
I
think a
would
lot of
love to
people
help you
have
with that.
so much information to share that
That's what I'm doing here is I'm getting this. I think people need to know this, of what is expected of them.
yeah.
And
And
not
and
th-
who people are too, and how they can
yeah,
help them, their roles. Yeah.
it's hard to find out information. A lot of casting directors are very secretive, even
Yeah,
online,
well, here's what
but
I find too, because breaking into that Atlanta market was interesting, just to see, like, you know, I'm not really known in that market. So who's going to respond to me, even agent wise? Like,
Mm.
who cares if I have a project? Like, they don't know my name so much there.
Yeah.
So that was one interesting, just building relationships all over again, because here, of course, they've come so easy for me because, 30 years, people know Kim from casting. Like, I've worked in
Yeah.
every office. I really, when I got into casting, um, and went on my own freelance, I was the only casting director that didn't have a studio. And it
Mm.
worked in my favor because, God, financially, it was so much better that, like, what do I want
Yeah.
a studio for if I'm not working every day? There's only certain
Yeah.
cast days. There's mostly prep days. I could do that anywhere. So I
Yeah.
figured out I'll just be home with my babies, prepping, have a nanny help me on those days. And
Yeah.
then the studio days, we go in and I have a crew. I wouldn't even really need employees because I could kind of pick who I want to run camera, what production assistants I want. And it was really fun. It was like
Yeah.
putting together a party.
Yeah.
And because we could stay at a really nice place, we can go to a hotel, we can cast anywhere, depending on the
Yeah.
job, So we went to some really cool production facilities that were already set up. What's that Toe Jam lot, back lot, Judd Allison's place? It was so much fun. I mean, they had like a golf course area and
Yeah.
really cool cars and fences and decorative and a bus. And so we could do some really fun stuff there. And then we'd go to a hotel. And so my crew and I had a blast on those jobs forever. And then when I did have to go into a studio for a callback,
Mhm.
I could pick and I could check out these other casting offices,
Yeah.
Universal. Wow. That's what it's like to have a trust fund as a partner.
Yeah.
Wow, I want one of those.
Yeah.
Someone here have a trust fund? Because I got some
Universal
ideas. Yeah, that was a
goes
good score.
decades back.
That was a good score. That was Ed's
They,
place for a long
mm.
time, Ed Arenas, and they kind of undermined him in their own way, but whatever. It was needed.
Interesting.
It was needed. Somebody had to take over. He had a lot of good clients calling him, and you know, I, I, you need to be on the ball and have a good team. So I think the team just got savvy to like, we could do this,
Yeah.
so
Well, that's good that you have
you're
like
great.
your own team. You're, not switching up. You're like, here's my team. We know what we need. We know what we need to do.
Well, but you need to stay busy to have that team because people want
Yeah,
to work and need to work.
absolutely.
So I worked with a production company called Shoot Florida back in the day. They had to
Mm.
change their name to Shoot Collaboration because Shoot Florida wasn't going well when the tourists were coming in and getting shot.
Yeah, if you,
Seriously, like there were tourists coming in and Shoot Florida was like, we can't have this name anymore. But
yeah.
they were so great to be able to give me so much work. And
Mm.
another production company called Collaboration, Carol Ennis, she gave me tons of work, and I would be like their in-house casting director and technically challenged because everything was changing so quick. The uploads were like, what? Instead of putting people on tape, playing it back, like I said, in the beginning of trying to find out where to store all of these videos, and you would be uploading hours after you already saw all these people, and then the
Mm.
system would crash or something
Yeah.
horrible where you're just like, oh God, I have to do it again. And
Yeah.
your client's calling you, when can I see it? When can I see it? And it's like, oh my God, it's very
We had
stressful.
a, we had
It's
a
awful.
difficulty.
Oh,
I
it
mean, that's
was
the
always,
problem
there
with,
was always a difficulty on my jobs in those days. And I know that's why they eventually had to stop hiring me, is I just couldn't keep up with those kind of, I couldn't, the stress was driving me crazy on those jobs. And,
yeah,
they could easily hire somebody that just came in with a laptop, like, blah, 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 instead of
yeah.
antiquated Kim, because I was just like, help on every job. So
How do you do?
eventually
How do you do this?
I just, but it was my team. I would have to hire a team, and then,
Yeah.
they would just be at it all night, uploading. So I didn't like
Yeah.
that part of it. And then, I'd have problems on a lot of jobs after that. People were always calling me complaining about something, the videos or the compression. I
Yeah.
never liked that part of my job. I like
Yeah.
seeing actors on camera, working with them in a room. And now the self-tape is a lot easier, obviously, to even create, but it's not the same for me. I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to casting, but I like casting smaller, fun projects that people just need more help on,
Mm.
you know? Like I said,
Yeah.
those student films are great, and our films that we do, because we're all learning as we go along. I learned so much about, because in casting, they're not on set hardly ever. They're just in an office, putting
Yeah.
people on tape or watching videos. So an opportunity to go to a set for casting is usually because they're wrangling extras, or, there's something contractual that brings them there. But otherwise, casting directors never go to set. So
They're
that was
kind of the
another
unsung
experience.
heroes of filmmaking, because
Yeah.
I've talked to casting directors. They're like, yeah, we're not on set for the set picture, and it's like we had a lot to do with the film, it's
Well, there's the wrap party though.
well, there is that. Yeah.
Yeah, the wrap party is what it's all about for casting. They love wrap parties because they get thanked and they get,
Yeah.
finally. And Zoom's changed a lot that you actually get to see people now, because that was very frustrating even for me. For
Mm.
a long time, I went by the name Kim Namoto. I was previously married, and
Mm.
people would always assume, of course, I was going to be Japanese when I showed up. And I'd see the disappointment on their face, especially crew, because they were usually trying to hire an ethnic,
Yeah.
casting, because they already had the African American market covered, and they were
Yeah.
really trying. And they'd see me and be like, "Oh,
You're
you're
not
Kim
what we were looking
Namoto.
for.
You're Kim Namoto." And I could tell. I was like, "Well, my eyes slant at night when I get a little
That's
tipsy."
funny.
Anyway,
That's so funny.
yeah,
So
so then for a long time, nobody knew me, and that was very frustrating for a long time. And I know
so
other casting directors have those stories.
so
I'm sure
talk a little
Lori,
bit about the onset workshops that you
I'd
devise,
love it.
because that's fantastic. I was
I think
looking at
so
it on
too.
YouTube, and I was
I
like,
love it.
that's something I haven't seen done in a lot of classes, is where it's like
I'm so
putting it
excited.
all
I wanted to
together.
high five you on that. So I'm
Yeah.
always trying to do something that someone hasn't done, because that was always frustrating for me too. When I first opened my studio, I'd be putting out all these fun classes, and then I just see someone just copy exactly what I was doing and do it. And I was like, oh, people can do that. I mean, I guess they could,
Oh
but I thought,
man.
I'm being so original, offering audition classes, and you get a tape with each
Yeah.
class. And then I just see people, my friends, even colleagues, just, oh, I'm going to do that. So,
Yeah.
I started to try to think, well, how can I really help actors? And then I realized, okay, the classes we're teaching are great, but they're, unless they're getting a job, or, or some of them are looking for representation right then, I don't really hear from them again. Like, how can I
Mm.
follow their career in a way that I'm seeing it more in front of me? And that's exactly what has happened, which is great. Nowadays, talent agents are inundated with requests and submissions that they would love an industry referral. For me,
Mhm.
even if somebody takes a class, I'm not going to give them an industry referral unless I see
Yeah.
that they have, you know, consistently come to class, made some really good
Yeah.
transitions. Showing up on time is the biggest thing for me. I can't tell you, when people show up
Yeah.
late for a class, there's no way I'm going to recommend them for something.
Let me tell you about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I've been in classes where, we were sitting around and I'm like, "Why don't we just start?" And they're like, "Well, not everybody's here." But I'm like,
Well,
"If we start."
it's true. You have the right mentality, but the person giving the class too knows that everything they're giving is really valuable information.
Yeah.
And to miss out on the very beginnings, even when I start my classes, I wait and I say, like, all right, I'm gonna just, like, we're gonna 110 and that's it,
Yeah.
and then of course 5 minutes later you knock on the door and you're like, oh well, too bad. But
But it's
I
but it's
do
like,
try to, yeah.
come on, you
Oh, I
gotta be
said,
professional. Show
oh,
up.
I get beeps during the class, like,
Ugh.
still not there. Like, what? I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, don't text me that during a class. Like, obviously you're still not
Yeah.
here, but why are you going to make
Now,
me stop the
if you
class?
do that like once, okay, that's one thing. But when you
It
start
has to be
seeing
a
the
good experience.
pattern,
Yeah.
it's like,
So that's
no.
really, so that's how the onset started, was, okay, let's create a little set, even if it's in my studio that they have
Yeah.
to show up for. Let's give them a call sheet that they have to try to read and understand
That's
and
so
and
cool.
know. Yeah. And then wardrobe for parents. Mostly I started it for parents because
Mm.
I would find that they didn't know what to do, what not to do on a set, and that some of them could be detrimental to who we hired. They could bring their family members and strollers, and they have a lot going on sometimes. And
Yeah.
that was pretty tough.
Close set.
Yeah. One parent, and we want you here all day and not on your phone. Like, we really
Yeah.
want you to watch what is going to be expected of your child on this day. Is it going to be a lot of sitting around waiting? Probably. We want to see how you handle that. Not just
Yeah.
them, you. Are
Oh,
you
that's
are
great.
you are you prepared to entertain them? Or are you going to just, seriously, are you going to just hand them an iPad while they have to
Yeah.
wait? Or are you going to go over their lines with them? Are you going to make
Yeah.
sure that they don't get food on what they're wearing? Are you
Yeah.
like in this with us, or are you just like, is it a play date? Expensive play date, which it can be.
Yeah.
So that's really how it started. And then it's just like, okay, these adults really need content, and they're doing good in the class, and then they'd skip classes. So then I started, okay, you got to come to at least 4 in a
Mm.
row and work on a particular script so that you're ready for it. Because then we
Yeah.
would do, okay, then we cut it down to, all right, you get one rehearsal day. Because you normally
Yeah.
don't. You'd get a table read maybe if it depends on the project, but I want to really make it very realistic, still keep it fun, but so my big issue sometimes is the product, the final product, because I've had so
Mm.
many people give me different advice on different things. Like, a lot of people are like, don't put your name on that. Where I am proud to put my name on the production quality overall, like
Yeah.
the cinematic work,
Yeah.
our editing, all that. But sometimes the quality is low performance of
Yeah.
from the performer, because they really just weren't ready. They didn't have the
Yeah.
experience.
They're learning. They're learning. So
So I
it's,
do like to make sure that that's in the beginning of all of them, that I'm not just like, da da da, there's this great moment. But
yeah.
we just posted one yesterday, which I just am so excited about it, because we did it in my truck, in the back seat of my truck, these
Really?
2 teens. So it was a whole different experience of them sitting in a car and knowing what that's
Oh yeah,
like.
I watched this. The
Hot day.
Dancer's Dilemma. Yeah,
And
I watched
another
that.
challenge was a week before that shoot, that one poor girl, she got a spacer put in her mouth, so she had to talk like this, and she really wanted to do the
Yeah,
job.
it's all
So I was so proud of her for doing it. Like,
showing
instead of
up.
like, just show up. And
Yeah.
we had the other girl last minute back out. Somebody just, panicked. They
Oh,
didn't like the
I hate that.
script. And that was another huge light bulb for me, that how are you going to
Yeah,
be in this business if you don't like a script?
I don't like the
You're going to
script.
get so many bad scripts and things that you don't want to say or do. Like, you're in it or not.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a great eye opener, because I was kind of focusing on this child. Like, I really want to help them. I really want to put them in a certain class. And I created a class for them to thrive more in from the regular on camera. And I was willing to give them, even half the price for that onset, just for the experience. And I knew, they
Wow.
financially weren't ready. So I said, I'll even cut it half rate. And then that's what they said. We don't like the script. So I was like, wow, really? Like, I'm
I
giving
don't
you
get that.
this great
You did
opportunity,
favors.
and you're just really, that's, so what can I say,
I
except
don't get it.
that'll be in my book for a while.
But it's
But so this
true. I
girl
mean,
came through
sometimes.
last minute, and her performance was awesome. The dancer that didn't have
Yeah.
the spacer, Laura, and she got it for free,
Yeah.
because we were really like, it was day of shoot. Who do we get? Who's going to learn this script this quick? So she did
Yeah.
amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And
So that
she
was
hasn't
in the
been on camera.
truck.
It was in my back.
Oh,
My
how
truck's name is Meg. So even my kids, when I showed it to them, they go, Meg, you're in the truck. So we'll have another one that we're releasing of two boys,
cool.
and they'll be in the back seat. Whatever their script was, I forget. It was something about they were in
And they don't
trouble.
realize that when you're in the, when you're in a car or whatever, there's not an air conditioning. It could
Not an
be a
air
hot
conditioning. Well,
day.
we
It
couldn't.
could
We
be that,
couldn't. You can't hear
yeah,
it.
the
Can't
sound.
hear
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah. So that was
people don't
tricky.
realize that.
Well, what was even interesting for, learning in production too, like, do we know the weather forecast? Have we looked at the best part of the day for the light and that's just me and my team. My team is 20 years old. He's my whole team.
Yeah.
Braulio Hernandez, he's a mastermind
Yeah.
when it comes to everything. He's in film school now in LA. So having him on my side, he's teaching me as he's learning. And he was a child
Yeah.
actor, and he's been doing really well in directing now. We just did a short film together that was very successful. Now he's doing music videos.
Mm.
So I'm so proud of him, but I don't get him so much anymore because he's so busy and he's going to take off. So I'm
Yeah.
always looking for filmmakers. If you come across anybody interested,
Yeah.
send them my way.
All right.
We would love to have a crew that just wants to do stuff as all the time,
Yeah. No, I think
because
that's that's
yeah,
what you need. You need that crew. But that's one of the things I was impressed was just, the shots that you guys would have them
well, we
do.
finally got
It's not
that
just,
loader. We finally
yeah,
got that,
yeah,
the
you
slide.
do a
Yeah.
panning
So
shot.
every
Yeah,
job, it's
that
really
was
cool
cool.
because every job we do, which I think we have like 72 films now, every job we
Mm,
buy something new. Like we just bought an Apple
mm.
box. So it doesn't have to be a expensive piece of equipment, but something essential.
Yeah,
They're not cheap.
yeah.
They're not cheap.
No,
Or,
nothing's
we'll get
cheap,
new
and
cards.
nothing's cheap in this
Yeah,
game.
we'll get new cables for the studio or, but
Mm,
I've got some really great people working for me, and I'm just very lucky to be around good people and people that are always excited to be here. Everybody that comes here
mm.
usually has a smile on. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. I'm ready. Nervous, but ready. It's a lot of
How
fun.
how do you how do you feel about working with kids? Because I see
I
that's a
love
lot of the
kids.
clientele. Talk about
Well, mostly
working with
the
kids.
most of the kids, the reason I have so many is because I do enjoy working with them. Um,
Mm,
in casting, you know, it's very difficult to, especially if it's film or TV work, to have the right kid. It is a special child that could be in the business. Not so much, print
yeah,
and commercials is a whole different thing. Lots of kids can do that.
yeah,
They really need good listening skills. Because a lot of kids, have anxiety and issues moving. That's a big thing too. A lot of kids feel like they always need to be
mm,
moving. So
yeah,
having a kid that can stay still for a while and
yeah.
listen and really take direction, because a lot of them go, yeah, 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 I got it. So that's another thing. I would say in the 30 years, maybe under 15 kids really stand out to me that were very special about being in the
Makes
business.
sense.
It's hard. It's usually,
Phew,
a weirder kid in some way because they
yeah,
are able to experience things they haven't yet experienced. So that's weird.
yeah,
A smarter kid usually because they just get things quicker. They have good common sense. They are great at memorization. They
yeah,
understand moments and how to process moments and let
yeah.
somebody feel that, and that's weird. uh they just get it. And so yeah, it's very special, a child that can really move forward quickly. you know it's not easy at all. I save a couple of
No,
our really great chemistry read Zoom sessions that some of these kids do with like celebrity talent. I save those sometimes so the parents can see, if
That's
your
good.
kid was at this level, this is what would be
Yeah.
asked of them. And it's not, what's hard about it, I think for the parent to see is, wow, that kid is so engaged and so in the moment and connecting with this actor. They're brilliant. But then they talk to them like humans, and the kids are not always good at that. They don't
Yeah.
they don't understand what they want to know about them. They're used to the performance. So
Yeah.
it's hard to, and try to understand a kid, like, what'd you do this summer? And they're like, thinking more, what should I say to get the part?
Mhm.
And thinking, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this one interview that we did, I felt so bad for the kid, because a lot of the times on Zooms and on these self-tapes, you're saying that you're places that you're not. Like, I'm based in Atlanta, but I'm in New York, and really they're in Fort Lauderdale. It happens all the time. So the Zoom was the project was filming in Savannah, but they were living in Atlanta, and she was in Fort Lauderdale. So the child was confused on what to say. And if she said she wasn't where, I could tell it on her face. And
Yeah.
that was unsettling for her. And then she was just nervous the rest of the time, and not a kid. She didn't know how to be a kid because she was such a good actor. It was weird. So I save all
Yeah.
of those because they're so important. And then, of course, the feedback I usually get from a parent is like, wow, my kid, that's not right for my kid. And it's like, okay, so let's stay on the print and
Good.
commercial and fun stuff, and keep your kid involved in soccer and dance and outside activities, because they want to move. By
Yeah.
constricting them and, bringing them in here because you think they have something, the kid has to really want it and show progress.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that can, I think. The classes are such great fun just for building confidence, and they're
Mm.
so brave, these kids. They get right up and, do these things that are uncomfortable and awkward in front of other kids. And I think that's enough. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
you can do anything. Like, you don't have to be in showbiz. But if you want to be in showbiz, let's talk about other things, editing,
I
lighting,
like
costumes.
that you show them a visual element so that you can show the
Always.
parents something that,
I
because
keep
yeah, sometimes
everything.
when you
I keep
tell them,
everything. So yeah,
yeah,
that's why these experiences that I have, I want to be able to share with people, so they could see, they could really understand uh, the end results. You know, I, I've gone
yeah,
I've gone on callbacks with kids, to LA for big projects, and they didn't get them, and what that's like.
mm,
Being picked up in a limo and have table read with, oh my God, all these people are on my favorite TV show, and you're staying in this
yeah,
gorgeous hotel, and they're bringing a coach over to go over the lines with you, and oh, you
yeah,
didn't get it. Like, what? We're just going home.
yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
going home.
That's getting, yeah, hard
Yep,
for a kid.
back to
Yeah.
Weston. Yep, school the next day. Sorry, that was fun, but
Yeah.
so that's been an eye
Yeah.
opener for me. I've actually been able to do that for a few parents, because they, either had too many kids or too much going on or something, and they're like, "Oh my God, my kid is on callback. They have to be in LA tomorrow." So I've taken them. I've
Yeah.
taken them, and
That's so nice.
well, it was experience for me too, to see, like, I really want to see
Yeah.
what you have to go through, so I could tell people,
Yeah.
and
No, it's great.
maybe advise them not to do this.
Yeah.
You know,
No, to
I
be a child actor is like you said, you gotta be a certain
very tough.
discipline of an yeah,
You have to
child.
understand that it should be able to lead to more things, is what you should always understand. It's not just the main thing. I think
Yeah.
the child shows an interest in acting. There's voice acting, which can lead to so many things. I mean,
Yeah.
dubbing,
Yeah.
narration, storybooks, podcasts, just TV personalities, radio personalities, uh, shows, interviews, talk show hosts. Like there's so many other venues than just not making it as a, you know, a
Yeah,
Hollywood actor. There's
absolutely.
working for Merrill Lynch, convincing people how to spend their money. Do that job. It's much better. You know, or even, you know, realtors. I've tried to, you know, have classes sometimes just for realtors on, you know, when you're in front of people, how to handle yourself, how to talk to yourself, how to not move certain parts, how to not talk with your hands sometimes, or, you know, we do
Yeah.
all kinds of ways to just let's see, there's a lot of HSN hosts sometimes that have to come on and need tweaking for their interviews.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on. I
Yeah.
like helping people that way, in just if they know what their goal is and it's realistic. That's
I
what's
think
important.
that's a great way to leave it. So, do you have a beginning of the day routine?
A beginning of the day routine. No, I'm so lucky
Yeah.
that I get to travel so much that
Mhm.
I am in a different city all the time. Like I said, I have a home in
Yeah.
North Carolina. So the beginning of my day there, I have kids still, they're in college, but they're still around. Is just hanging out with my dog. The phone is usually the beginning of my day, and then when to take a break from the phone. And when I'm in North Carolina, I am outside. I absolutely love being outside. So earbuds, and just if I have to listen to videos, or you know, I say listen, it's supposed to be watching.
Mm.
I'll come back and watch. Preparing for classes, always talking to people, and then, you know, just trying to spend time away from technology, which is very challenging for us all. But
Yeah.
Mondays and
Yeah.
Tuesdays are usually my days that I just don't like to have anything that I have to do. I used to do a Tuesday
That's
Zoom
good.
I used to do it once a week, and then it was like, all right, let me do this once a month. Where anybody who was taking classes with me, or not, anybody really, if they had questions and we were going to discuss a certain topic, or just questions, there's so many questions, you know, about everything. And so I would let everybody get on and just do an hour of questions, every age group, if moms wanted to join on, or so I still do that once a month. But I would like to
Mm.
move the night. But Tuesday seems to be such a good night for everybody to Zoom, but it cuts into my time. But
Yeah.
it's kind of, for
No, I
me, then that's
understand
the
that.
start. Like, okay, after Tuesday, then I'll start getting back into things. But if I can, Sundays are crazy in the studio. Even if I'm not in the studio, I'm always monitoring the classes and watching the videos that come from the classes, and getting ready for the rest of the week. So Sundays are really busy. So if I can have a Monday off, that's always great. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of self-taping that goes on in all of our studios. So that's another thing that I manage. I have
Mm.
everybody contact me to be scheduled, because I like to be able to put them with the right reader. I think that has a lot to
Mm.
do with their performance. And if I know they're
Yeah.
new, sometimes it will be a reader that I know they might want to coach with. So you know, that I like
Mm.
personalizing things so
That's
that they're
great.
successful. It's not just, you know,
Yeah.
because an audition is a big deal for people. Even if
No,
it's just a
absolutely.
learning experience, it's still a big deal. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of energy, time, money, um, focus. So if they're really willing to do all that, we're willing to help them however
That's
however they need it.
that's great. Do you meditate at all?
I pray.
That's
So
a form of meditation.
yeah, just
Yeah.
praying. I think a lot of the times when I'm outside, just I'm very grateful for everything that I have and all the people I get to meet and help. And you know, if someone's trusting me with their child to, you know, be in a
Yeah.
studio and learn things in a different way, uh, stuff like that really is big deal to me, because I think I could be influential for sure, good or bad.
Yeah.
I could be the problem child too sometimes. Push the button, push it. I could be immature
Um,
for sure. So I try to not be sometimes. So Yeah.
what are you reading right now?
My daughter just gave me a book. I left it in my car because I'm trying to
Ah.
start reading it. So I'm not reading anything right now at all. But I do have a novel that she get. I don't even know. It's one of her favorite authors, so I didn't even explore. I just said thank you because I love to whatever
Yeah.
you're reading. It's such a great gift to give somebody a
Yeah.
book. But anyway, it has a beautiful cover. I've been carrying it now, 2 different cities. I was going to read it today, but like I said, I went kayaking with my mom, so maybe
Yeah.
later. I don't know. Doubtful.
What are you listening to right now? Anything?
Yeah, I do like, I'm a big music fan. Like I said, my career started off in
Yeah.
music. So I listen to everything all the time. But right now on my phone, I was actually listening to Queensryche, which
Oh,
is,
really?
yeah. Do you know who Queensryche is? It's just a
What
crazy
are-
loud rock and roll band, crazy, like almost opera rock. Just because sometimes it could be so loud and filling
Yeah.
in your headphones. It's kind of like it's an orchestra. So sometimes I like that just to get me like, revved up. So
Yeah.
that's
I
what I
know.
was
I
listening to.
understand that.
But I just do shuffle all the time on my phone.
Yeah. I try to find, yeah, I'm always like, I want to find something new,
Yeah,
not
well, that's
just
great
hear
for
the
like the
same song.
Spotify or any of those.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone on to oh, what's that other one it's such a great ah, I can't think of what it is, but it's a great app that it's like Spotify, but
Mm.
it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it right now. My friend turned me onto it and I love it. It's just everything, everything good.
Really? All
Yeah,
right.
I
Now,
like
now
the
I'm intrigued. What?
mixes. I like the mixes that they have.
Interesting.
It's a like a radio station. Um, I can't think of what it
Is it
is.
Pandora?
No, no. Uh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know what it is.
I mean, what I normally do
Text
is
you.
I'll listen to XM radio
Yeah, I
and
like
I'll
XM. It
like
can get a little
if I
boring
hear
sometimes.
yeah, I can.
It can.
It can
Oh gosh,
definitely.
I can't think of what it is. And I just even told my friend what it was because she was going to put it on her phone. But I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, let me know. What are you watching right now?
Um, I was watching The Sopranos all over again because I had
Really? Such
COVID.
a good show.
I had COVID, and
Oh.
I'm telling you,
Oh
it was,
no.
I think, the first time I got it, and it took me about 3 weeks to really get it out of me, and I had to just lay down a lot.
What
So
were the
even in my room,
symptoms?
I had everything. Started off with I lost my voice. It was on our onset day, so it was exactly about
Oh
4 weeks ago.
wow.
I lost my voice that day, and because I remember my boyfriend saying, "Are you sick?" Because we were planning to meet, and I was like, "No, I'm fine. I feel great." And then the next day, I
Yeah.
felt it in my chest and in my throat, and it started to get in my head. And I used to have bronchitis when I was younger, so I think I carry things in my chest, and I still
Mm.
can hear it in my voice. It doesn't sound 100%. I've been trying to do this voiceover piece for my studio, a little
Mhm.
promo that we had going on in the voiceover studio. And the guys have been wanting me to do the intro for 3 weeks. And I'm like,
And
I
you're
still,
like, I can't
so I
do
have
it. The
actors
voice is
doing
not
it. I
there.
finally got it done, but I had actors. We have one that's a British actor.
Yeah.
Welcome to Kim Houston. And then the other one is a Spanish guy. And they came out great. So I'm like, you know
Cool.
what? They sound better. Let's keep them.
Just
But
let them do it. Yeah.
I do like
So you watch The Sopranos. Okay, that's
watch
good.
The
That's a great show.
Sopranos. Yeah. It was a little dated going backwards, and some things I questioned
It's a
why
little
they
dated.
did it in a certain way. But gosh, it was the characters that I
Yeah.
loved seeing again, and
Yeah.
how they just their whole bodies, they're all their mannerisms when they talk, and you know,
Yeah.
and knowing now, because I've learned so much in our onset workshops about production. I always did before because I was one of those casting directors that would go to set, especially if I was doing extras,
Mhm.
was like in charge of them. And
Mhm.
I would watch so much. That's the best thing about being an extra on a set too, is a fly on the wall on what job does that person have and what do they do and who do they report to. And So again, why we created our
Yeah.
onset, we just wish we had a bigger crew, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. Anyway,
Yeah, you're getting there.
yeah, watching,
Yeah.
knowing what goes into each scene and the angles
Mhm.
when they are, you know, in the edit, that was what I was watching mostly. Is like, wow, there's so much time that goes into just, you know, one little scene sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
especially if there's extras involved and are they on the street, or those cars that they blow up too, or flip.
Yeah.
I always wondered, like, there's a car scene and they're gonna flip, like how they prepare for those scenes, you know?
I love that scene. I think it's the 5th season or whatever. When Tony's gonna buy a house and the guy's not gonna give him back the
I know.
house.
The
So he
boat,
puts the boat out there and
totally
plays the
forgot
music
that until I
loud.
was watching it.
It's
Yeah.
so great.
Just being so obnoxious. And then he kept playing what's his name?
Um,
Uh uh Dean Martin.
yeah, Dean Martin.
He kept
He
playing
just
Dean
keeps
Martin talking because
they'll
he's
just come
such a drunk. It was
they'll just
great.
come sit down and they'll be like, oh, I guess it's over. And as soon as they sit down, he plays it again.
But his wife was so obnoxious. She gave him no mercy. As soon as it happened, she was like looking at
Oh
him,
yeah.
you know, you should have just did this. You should have just did this,
Yeah.
instead of like, oh my God, like we need to do this.
I know. She was
Yeah. But I love
she
the
was like, you
mother.
gotta keep
Gosh,
calling them.
his mother was
Oh
just,
yeah.
what a great character to play. It's always
Oh,
great to
that's
play
an
the
interesting
villain,
character.
but she was so nasty.
Yeah.
And I wonder if
No,
she
I mean
played,
it's
I didn't really get to look her up and see her career, but I wonder the kind of character she got to play, because she just had that look.
yeah.
It was great.
It's
It's fun. Yeah. So
it's such a
that's like
great show. I mean,
so
that
now
show
I'm
changed television.
exactly. So now I'm like, what do I watch after that? Like, ugh. I'm always weary about getting into you know, a series, because it's such a commitment. And all my friends get
Game of
really mad at
Thrones.
me. Everybody gets real mad at me because they're just like, you should watch it. And I'm like, how many no, no. I don't really like
Game
to
of
watch
Thrones.
TV. What's up?
Game of Thrones. Will you do
Never,
you
never
watch
saw
that?
one
Nah?
episode of that. Never saw one episode of Sex in the City. Friends.
Really?
Not really,
Seinfeld?
no. Of course.
Yeah, okay. There
Love
we go.
Seinfeld. But those,
We're not crazy here.
yeah, exactly. That I can watch 100 times. I love that it's on the Netflix too. And my kids will laugh at
It's
me
the
like,
best.
that's what you're watching? Because like you've seen it. I'm like, I
It's
know, I love it. But
it's so
yeah,
good.
I don't really enjoy too much anymore, because
Mm.
you know, I just, I don't know. Again, I think it's a device thing that I'm aware that I'm sitting in front of something again, watching. It really freaks
Yeah.
me out. I can't tell you. I've never quit a job ever in my life, and I quit working. I was working, I believe, for Showtime. Can't remember if it was, I think it was Showtime.
Mm.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. I remember I was crying. I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore. I cannot look at another monitor. I just
Scream.
can't do it. Not at the capacity. And they were like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you know, why don't you do 14 hours a day? No. How
No,
about
I
I
don't
do
want to look
none?
at any screen.
No.
No
I don't want to
screens.
do casting, I would say. I don't want to do casting right now. I don't want to look at talent,
Yeah.
nothing. I'll look at their
Yeah.
self-tapes and I'll look at classes. And that's about
Yeah.
as much as I want to right now. So I want to kind of
Yeah,
stay
that's
in that
great.
lane.
And that's great. And it's
Yeah,
great
and
that you
yes and
can
no,
admit
you know,
that.
my kids are
No?
disappointed. You're not working on anything cool. Like, my stuff is cool. But they love, you know, somebody's in the studio, you know, there are people that they watch
Yeah.
because they're big TV watchers. So, and we had
Yeah.
gosh, I can't even remember his name because I don't watch the show. What's that brilliant actor that was in American Horror Story and then did the Dahmer?
Oh, Evan
Yes, Evan.
Evan
Gosh,
something.
he was here for something,
Yeah.
self-taping, happened to be in town, and wow, they were just, you know,
Wow.
what are you working on? They were so excited. And I'm like, nothing, it's
Yeah.
not my job.
It still amazes me that Dahmer became a hit show. I was like, if you
It's,
showed me a bunch of stuff, I would have been like, Dahmer? Really? That's what
yeah,
people want to watch.
people do want to watch that. They love horror.
Amazing.
And it's that generation. They're unfazed. They really, they
Yeah,
can watch anything. My son can watch almost anything. There's some things that I
that's kind of
appreciate
me.
now that he says to me, which I appreciate. Like I said, Mom, you wouldn't like it. So I'm like, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
telling me in advance.
yeah, yeah,
So anyway, it was
yeah.
nice talking to you, but I think I have to
Well,
go.
thank you so much. Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you so much. This has been great. How
I
can
can
people reach
talk.
you?
I can talk.
Oh, yes, you
So
can.
I prefer someone to text me always because my phone is always on silent. So if they text me, I'll
Okay.
get a chance to actually read the text, like, hey, I'm Christian Bale and I'm either in town for a self tape or I've been on your website and I'd like to sign up for classes. A big pet peeve for me is when people contact me and they have not gone on the website and they're asking me all the questions that are on there. And it just shows me that they're not really
Yeah.
productive people, which is a big part of our business. You have to really do your research. So if someone calls and they say, oh, I'm interested in this class, and I'll send them a link to the class, and then they'll say, how much is it? It's like, well, that was the link I sent
That's
you.
on the website.
It's
Yeah.
all in the link. Like I sent you that for a reason. Um, I'm really detailed from my years in casting, and also I have an organization business I've had forever. So very detailed about giving people information on this is all you need. Pay attention to what people send you because there's a reason they took the time to write it. That used to
Yeah.
really drive us crazy in castings is we would put all this detail like they do on the Actors Access or whatever on the breakdowns. There's a
Mhm.
lot of details, and when people skim, it's a shame because you know it's there
Yeah.
for a reason.
All right. Well,
All right,
this has
well,
been
thanks for
great. Thank you
inviting
so
me. I
much.
appreciate it. Anytime. And please, let's talk some more about doing podcasts. I have, I'm sure, tons of suggestions
Absolutely.
for you.
Absolutely. Okay, that about does it for the full interview with Kim Houston. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time on the DMF.